And we're live. That's exciting. Where'd my iPad go? Oh, snap. I gotcha. Hi, guys.
All right, we're live with Jonathan Kumar of
Yeah.
Give Safe. We're recording an episode with him, and anyone watching live gets a sneak peek at the episode before it gets posted on iTunes. So
You tagged me
enjoy.
in it? So,
I've tagged you in it. Yeah.
Right.
So actually, all of your friends can see it.
Wow.
Because nobody likes Rise Seattle Facebook page right now. So actually, there's like 10 of you. So thank you for liking Rise Seattle.
Our
Facebook
moms
page.
and wives. And,
Yes,
yeah.
that's pretty much it. So.
you have multiple moms?
Yeah. Well, yes.
Collectively.
Yes, collectively. So, we're here with Jonathan Kumar. He is the founder and CEO of Give Safe. Give Safe is a smartphone app that exists to remove the friction between barriers of giving. So when you see somebody on the street, how do you go about doing that? Hence the title of our Facebook Live. I am Tyler Davis-Jones.
And I'm Phil Greeley.
Yeah. And, let's just get started. Jonathan, thanks for having us, buddy.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about yourself to start. You're not from Seattle originally, is that correct?
Right.
So how did you get here? Where do you live now? And just how did that story evolve to where you're at now?
Moved around a lot as a kid. My parents came from South India to Western New York, Buffalo, and just due to my dad's job, we moved around. Jumped from Buffalo to we were in Madison, Wisconsin for a while, and then about 12 miles outside of Chicago, where I went to high school. Then moved out to Michigan for school.
University of Michigan, or okay,
Ann Arbor.
There we go.
Then Grand Rapids for my first startup, and then I came out to Seattle to scale that startup. It was called Food Circles, or it is called Food Circles here in Seattle. Totally failed, and then I just felt the Lord was opening doors for Give Safe, and so I started working on that about a year ago.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. So you're somewhat of a serial entrepreneur or serial startup person. So tell us a little bit more about Food Circles. What was that about?
Yeah, if you're familiar with Tom's Shoes, the buy one, give one model, we were doing the same thing for food at restaurants. So anyone could go on our app in Michigan and buy what we called a buy one, feed one dish at a local restaurant. It'd be an appetizer or a dessert or a soup or something like that, a secret item. And 100% of what you would pay for that item would go straight to feeding a hungry child or family in your community.
Cool.
So everything that GiveSafe is really a result of my experience with Food Circles.
Yeah, that's great. And did you do anything before Food Circles as well? Have you kind of always been this entrepreneurial startup guy?
I spent a couple of years on Food Circles. Before that, I was studying user experience design, human computer interaction at Michigan economics. I started a club tackle football team at school.
Nice.
No pads.
Okay.
So I've always, been one to try and identify things that are missing or problems that exist that I can try and solve, and then take my best shot at it.
That's great. And I was just going to say, Michigan's a fantastic school to be studying to computer engineering and computer science. They were like one of the originals, right, back in the day when one of the first supercomputers, I think, I read at one point. So I'm sure.
Were you around back then?
I wasn't. No, this was. I forgot what book it was that I read that said something about that. So that's
yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
It very well could be. I mean, it was fun because it was the informatics program. None of the textbooks had been written. It was a brand new major. We studied things like, why do people lie on Facebook, or what makes a video go viral on YouTube.
Wow.
So there's a lot of interesting papers about the ethics of technology. So yeah, it was really interesting. I was just gonna say, the background to Food Circles before Food Circles was this film about social entrepreneurs in India that I helped shoot and produce. So
cool. It's
kind of been this natural progression for me.
That's great. Yeah. Is that still live too? Like, can people go and see that film?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
We'll have to put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Food Circles, the kind of the ending of that, or the process of that informed GiveSafe. So maybe can you take us through the genesis of GiveSafe? What did you pull out of Food Circles that's
sure,
a part of what you're doing now, and then what are you doing now?
Yeah. So I think GiveSafe is a fantastic sequel to Food Circles, and the genesis for GiveSafe actually came while I was in Chicago for this thing called Chicago Ideas Week on the behalf of food circles. And I just remember running to whatever workshop I was participating in and passing by someone in particular need in downtown. And, you know, a couple hours later, I thought back to that person. I thought, gosh, if that person had just held out a credit card terminal and I could swipe and keep going, and I knew that it would charge me a couple dollars, my data would be safe, and the money would actually help this person in some way. I would have been happy to give. I just didn't. There's so many things that prevented me from helping. And then I thought, okay, this is 2012, actually, it's a couple of years ago. And I thought, okay, well, to give out credit card terminals to every homeless person in Chicago is just a horrible idea. So, you know, you scrap that, but the idea kind of stuck with me. I pitched it at a startup weekend. Hackathons have meant so much to my life. That's like what I did when I got to Seattle and I didn't have any friends. I would just go to hackathons and pitch ideas.
And are those for a non-techie person? Are those just everywhere all the time, kind of in Seattle?
Yeah, and they are for non-technical people too. I think that's one of the misnomers, is that you have to be like a Java developer or like you have to be a software programmer to build and contribute at hackathons, which is
you have an
totally,
idea and someone else
false.
might have the details for that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, as a business person like you guys, you're all about customer validation, customer acquisition. Startups don't fail because of a lack of code. They fail because of a lack of customers. So I don't want to say you guys, but people who are not software developers, designers, business plan writers, sales, marketing, copywriters, they are more important than you know, whatever code you can scrap together in a weekend. Anyways, so I pitched it at a hackathon, GiveSafe, in 2013. Totally bombed, but I still believed in it.
Wait, what does that mean by totally bombed?
I pitched the idea on stage, and people thought it was like the stupidest thing ever.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it was, but I almost got laughed off stage, I remember. But then we worked on it, even though our idea, or my idea, didn't move forward in the competition. I wanted to work on it anyway. So that weekend, even though there was just not a lot of support, we made a logo, we made our first video, and we went out to the streets and interviewed a bunch of people about their barriers to giving. And I think that even back then in 2013 was really helpful for me to think like this could be something someday. Wow. The technology actually wasn't ready for GiveSafe, like the beacons and the Bluetooth. That stuff didn't exist in 2013, which is maybe why people didn't quite get it at the time.
So going back to beacons, can you kind of explain what it is that GiveSafe does? And
Sure.
What kind of technology it uses?
Yeah. So you know, back then we again didn't really know, or I didn't. I don't say why I'm saying we, but I didn't really know exactly how to execute on a solution to the problem that I described before. You know, you're passing by someone in need. Either you don't have the time, you don't have the cash on you, or you don't have the clarity that giving cash is really going to help this person. So that was the user experience problem that I thought happened. I figured probably happened tens of thousands of times a day in just Chicago, maybe, much less the rest of the country. So I thought, like, this is a big problem. It should be solved. How do we solve it? I was looking at QR codes, I was looking at text messages, Wi-Fi, RFID, NFC, all these acronyms, and all of them had different failures. It was either too inconvenient for the giver, like it would require you to take your phone out and, you know, type in a text message or scan a code, or just things that you wouldn't normally do, and I knew that any new barrier would prevent compassion all the same. Or it was like maybe a violation of privacy, or like a over power consumption for the person in need. So, you know, to put like a Wi-Fi chip and suddenly we're tracking their location 24/7, we can see them on a map, that didn't feel humane either. So last year in 2015, there's this technology that started emerging. It had existed before 2013, 2014, but 2015, I started researching into these Bluetooth low energy beacons. So that's what we're using. You know, we have these necklaces that emit a Bluetooth signal about 20 or 30 yards in every direction, which is kind of that ideal range that we were looking for, where you see the person, you're kind of at a distance, And basically this is emitting a signal like twice a second saying, I exist, I exist, I exist. Now we can create an app that goes on your phone. It's less of an app and more of a service that just listens for that Bluetooth signal. And if it finds a Bluetooth signal, it can exchange it with the cloud, our server, pull down the person's profile, and then bam, you've got a push notification just by walking by somebody. So
And on that push notification, is that a story? Is that a video? Is that a
video would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea is that you have your phone in your pocket. You don't have it open. You're just going to work or you're going to happy hour or what have you, and just by passing by someone, you get this really cool sounding notification. And then if you happen to pull it out then, or you get to the bar or get to work or whatever, and you pull out your phone, you'll see like, hey, this is Charles. He's been on the streets for 8 months. His parents kicked him out of his home because, he was LGBTQ or whatever, and they didn't accept his lifestyle. So now he's living on the street. So you can see how he got to the streets. We also asked the people, like, what is your aspiration? Where do you want to see your life go? What do you feel you need to get there? So we try and create this narrative around these individuals of what's been going on, what they're up to, and how you can be involved. And so that information exists for the people. We basically on the back end, like before you have that interaction, we're doing outreach. Me, my team, people at the Union Gospel Mission, Downtown Seattle Association, different organizations are doing outreach with our beacons, having these conversations with individuals who are living on the streets and providing this beacon to them. It's just a 5-question intake that they do on the spot. Those basic questions that I'd mentioned before, that information goes straight to the app, such that if you have the app and you pass by later on, once they have a beacon, then you get that information. You can then choose to invest in that person financially, or you can just have a conversation. If you give them, let's say, $5 or $10, they can then take this beacon into any partnered merchant or nonprofit and spend the money on the things that they need to, either leave the streets or just survive them while they're waiting on a housing list or something.
So the money goes on the beacon, is that correct?
Yeah.
Are they notified in some way that someone gave to them?
Yeah, we ask our city-goers, the people with the app, to make some sort of verbal confirmation when possible. When that's not possible, we call them beacon holders. If a beacon holder has a cell phone or an email, they can get a text message. So it doesn't have to be a smartphone. It can be any phone. They can get a text. A lot of them do have basic phones, or they have email addresses, so we can send them an email. And then so then this acts as a digital wallet and as also a digital ID, actually. They can take this into different nonprofits. They can take it into different merchants that we have in downtown Seattle. The merchants and nonprofits have an app of their own that allows them to get the same notification, but instead of giving, they can see the person's photo, see their balance, and then they can charge a service to that balance.
I see.
Are you able to mention some of the merchants that you work with?
Yeah, I think the most successful merchant since we launched has been Grocery Outlet down in Soto.
Okay.
So they're all independently operated, and there's a great couple that owns that one, and they really bought in early. So I think 70% of redemptions happen at that Grocery Outlet.
Wow.
And the cool thing is, like, not only does Grocery Outlet have really affordable food and like fresh organic food, but they also have like household items, hygiene products that let's say food stamps couldn't be used to buy. And then we also have kind of a basic restriction that if the person comes in with a beacon, they can't use it for alcohol or cigarettes.
Right.
So that's kind of cool.
How does that work? They say, hey, I've got my beacon, I've got money on this.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me how much money's on it? And do they scan it? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so it's the same thing that you would experience as a donor or giver. If you're going down the street, you'll pick up the notification. So the same thing happens at the merchant. When the person walks in with the beacon, the merchant already knows that they're around.
I see. Okay.
And then
Very
they open
cool.
the profile, they just see, okay, he's got $50, so they can spend up to $50.
That's great.
And then we just reimburse our merchants every month with real money.
Right.
Send them a check.
Okay.
One quick question.
Yeah.
The Tyler and I are learning about the homelessness issue in Seattle and homelessness in general. But it sounds like, so pardon me if this is sort of an uninformed question, but kind of what we've been learning is that there's, I don't know if you can even say two camps, but there's kind of people on the streets that have mental health or drug addiction issues, and then there are others that are either recovering or just down on their luck, and they've ended up out there for some reason, and are in some form of a service, in a service provider's net, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of your customers or clients are in that spectrum of where they're with a service provider of some sort, like a Union Gospel Mission, or do you have some that are just literally like kind of the most downtrodden out there as well?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of mental health, like we're all on a spectrum.
Right.
We all experience different mental problems or mental illnesses over our lives. So there's definitely a segment, a part of the spectrum that they may not have the capacity to use a beacon.
Right.
The cool thing is, even we do outreach with the mental health counselor at UGM, this guy Ryan Likes. And so when we're handing out beacons, we also get into conversations with people that are not necessarily good fits for a beacon. But in the process of doing that outreach, Ryan has sort of built a relationship with that person, and that's been a kind of a cool outcome just on its own. Like, beacon's probably not a good idea, but just the fact that they're having this conversation is good. We actually are targeting the individuals who have the capacity for beacon, for using a beacon, that are not currently plugged in. Our end outcome isn't necessarily to provide just spending money. It's really to channel people into services. And so we look for the people who are living independently, who are living apart from people who want to help. We offer them a beacon, and if they take it, it's a great way for them to have their story be heard and for them to be known, for them to receive the support of others, and maybe see that it is good to trust others, or it is good to allow people to help, right? Yeah. Each month, the thing that I'm really excited about is that each month the beacon turns off, and if that person sees enough value from the beacon, and that's a big assumption, but if they do, or if they are getting enough positive benefit from the beacon, the way that they reactivate it is that they have the opportunity and responsibility to have a conversation with a counselor at a Mary's Place, at a New Horizons, at a UGM, at a DSA office. So it's just there's no agenda that person has. It's just a conversation about how that person's doing and what they want to do with the month ahead, and the beacon gets reactivated, and they're on their way. Yeah. But we hope that over time, those conversations can lead to greater resources, like getting into shelter or rehab or a job training, what have you.
So you mentioned Union Gospel Mission and your relationship there. We recently interviewed Jeff Lilly, CEO, Union Gospel Mission, and he spoke very highly of you. And I think he's on your board or an advisor to you guys, or what does that look like?
Yeah, we don't have a board yet.
Okay.
But yeah, he's kind of like in this group of advisors.
Yeah.
It's hard to get his time, but yeah.
Yeah, we noticed that. But we were very grateful for the time.
He's an entrepreneur at the head of a $30 million organization that's really good for the mission.
Yeah, that's great. Well, so he spoke specifically about Seattle's homeless crisis, right? As the mayor's considered this a crisis that we're facing. But can you maybe qualify the scope of the problem as well from your perspective as someone who's trying to deal with it from a little bit more creative perspective and technological perspective?
Yeah, I guess it's interesting in that technology has led to a lot of displacement. So the reason that, not the reason that, but you have these huge technology companies buying up real estate, raising the prices of real estate, and that can create cracks that people fall through, right? And then now you have technology that's trying to address those displays. It's, I don't know, an interesting time to be in the world, I guess. But in terms of the scope of Seattle's homeless problem, I think from what I've researched, from what I know about other cities, Seattle is unique in that homelessness is pervasive, You can be in any neighborhood. You can be in North Seattle. You can be in South Seattle. You can be, you can be in Bellevue. You can be downtown. You can be in Belltown, U District. It's everywhere. Yeah. It's spread out. Whereas, you go to San Francisco, it's more like there's Market Ave and the Tenderloin that have it sort of clustered, and Skid Row in LA. Like, it seems to be more concentrated. I think Chicago and New York have more similarities to Seattle, but I think that's a unique thing about our community, is that the neighbors in need that we have are really everywhere.
Yeah.
I guess one thing that I've noticed.
Yeah.
Back to GiveSafe specifics, or do you, I guess first part of the question, do you have contact with the beacon holders once they have it? And then the reason I asked that, I guess, is if you had a success story maybe that you could share.
Sure.
Don't have to name names, and people might not even know them, but
Yeah, I'd be happy to. The first question about can I maintain that contact? So the whole point of the project is really to connect them with city goers, to counselors at nonprofits. So we try and play as much of a background role as we can. But now that we've got the project launched and we're sort of seeing data come in, like, this percentage of beacon holders are completely dropping off the map. This percentage, they're getting connected. Like, we do, now that we can see that breakdown, we can reach out and say, hey, did you know your beacon isn't active and you actually have $50 on it to spend? Have you been able to go down to Union Gospel? No. Oh, why not? Oh, you don't want to go down to UGM. Well, did you know we had another office, MID or New Horizons or Mary's Place, that you could also get your beacon reactivated? So we can have those sort of support conversations, though, we want the relationship to, like, we're software developers and designers and marketers and stuff. So, like, we're not social workers, and we have built some great friendships with our beacon holders, and I'm proud to involve them in some of our decision making and some of our events. But we know where our expertise ends, and where other people who have invested in this community longer than we have should to take precedent. Yeah. So our goal is to really facilitate the relationships. Success stories, we had, I think, one really positive experiment where this is before the beacons, this was before the app. We just had we had some early, I guess it just had like an early email list, and I asked this email list, hey, can you give us some funds to do some experiments? And they did. So we took $40 from two people and offered this guy in his 20s who was on the street $40, and I said, you've got three choices. You can use it for, I actually asked him his greatest needs, and he told me, I need a job, I need stuff, I need gear to stay dry and warm, and I need money to refill my phone. And I said, I will give you $40 to any of those three things. And I happen to have a relationship with an outdoor store, with a job counselor that charges $200 an hour, but for you it'll be $20 an hour. So you can get 2 hours with her. You can go use this for rain gear, or we can refill your phone. What do you want to do? So he picks the job counselor. He sits down the next day with her, and then I think that very afternoon, he had a job at Safeco Field in concessions. Wow. Yeah. So it's I think that's an outlier, to be honest. But it happened,
It demonstrates the potential of what,
just a little money used strategically can lead to some crazy outcomes. Yeah. So there was that, and I think you have other people. So like I said, I think that's an outlier. What we're seeing today in terms of success stories is more than now this person has their own apartment and they're paying for it and stuff. I think what you're seeing is hope, a lot of hope and pride and dignity brought to individuals who may have not had that much before, because you have this beacon and it acts as a connection point, and people with our app, they're taking these individuals out to lunch once they learn about them. They're offering them opportunities. They're obviously giving financially, and each time a person gets a contribution from a donor and spends it on what they feel they think they need, whether it be a haircut or just something as simple as like a mocha at one of our coffee shops. Like that can really make someone's day. So I think that sort of the small reminders that these individuals are getting, that they exist and are cared for, and that's not something we're doing. That's something that our people with the app are doing. So I can't take credit for that, but I think that's one of the cool outcomes right now.
That's awesome.
With the goal, obviously, we want to see a certain percentage off the street and all that, but this is happening right now.
You're facilitating relationship, which is what really matters.
Yeah.
So love that story. What are some of the hurdles that you guys face? Is it user downloads? Is it people accepting beacons? What are kind of the hurdles that you guys have been facing?
So one of the ones that we recently started to get some traction and overcome was beacon distribution. We had over 1,000 people download the app in the first few months, and then the biggest complaint we would get is like, I've got the app but I haven't gotten any notifications yet. So we really took it upon ourselves, like, we've got to ramp up our distribution in terms of beacons. So we were doing a lot of it on our own, which we were our own bottleneck essentially. And so I'm really excited to share that we're having nonprofits request beacons now, and they want to do the distribution on their own. And volunteers have asked to like buy beacons and give them out on their own. And so like we're working through that, where we can share that sort of that interview process with volunteers and staff at nonprofits. And there are little things that we still have to resolve there, but I think that's a big challenge that we're overcoming right now. I think the next challenge for us is really taking the next step in terms of product. I think we have like a minimally viable thing that technically works, but there are several things that we're under delivering on, and so in terms of that being a challenge, that's a result of a very young team, and not everyone's full time, and some of us are students, and so a lot of us we're all motivated, but I think compensation comes into play and stuff like that. So I think for the next challenge for us is really to kind of raise the level of expectations in terms of the product. Now that it's actually being used and it works, we need it. For example, like our mission, our promise is that we want to make it convenient to give, but we also want to offer clarity as to how your donation will help. So the first thing we've done on like a technical level, we've made it super super simple to invest in someone, and then but that second part, the clarity that your donation is going to help. So we've under-delivered on that, in that we basically have this promise and we say right now, like, okay, there's like these 15 merchants that the person you give to is going to spend the money at. But that's just text. That's just us saying something, right? And our users obviously believe that. But I think there's so much opportunity for us that once that redemption happens for a haircut or for a clothing purchase or
take
food,
a photo of the haircut.
Yeah, totally. And then report that back to the city org. So we don't have any sort of tracking right now present onto like how your investment is being used, where that's a pretty simple thing to do from like a data standpoint. We haven't released that yet.
Cool.
So I think that's what
you said. Distribution. How many beacons do you actually have out there now?
I think we just hit 70, which was like a 30% increase from the previous month.
Okay.
So
do you have an idea? Are most of them in Soto or downtown somewhere? Or where are they?
Yeah, Belltown.
I guess you don't know necessarily because you don't track them, right?
Right. Well, we can't track them, I should say. Like,
yeah.
The Bluetooth devices can only be spotted within 20 yards. So unless you're within that range, you wouldn't know that they were there.
I see.
Which I think works well for our beacon holders.
Sure.
So mostly Soto, downtown, Belltown, maybe a few in the U District or Capitol Hill. We'd like to expand that, and I'd really like to open. We hope that in the next 3 months we can open the doors for for anyone to buy a beacon. They're just $5, and then go and give it out to whoever that they're seeing. Because again, in terms of what have we promised, we've promised that the next time you see someone in need on the street, that this will be the way that you respond. But what we've delivered is the next time you see a beacon holder on the street, you'll know how to respond.
Interesting.
So we only have 70 beacon holders. There are 1,000 homeless individuals out there. So we've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna get the shot to do it, but for us to deliver on our promise, we need to probably enable volunteers, city-goers to buy our beacons at cost, just $5, and then be involved in giving it to the person that they see constantly.
Would they also help write the story for that person?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's
That's
just
great.
a mobile web form, 5 questions. It could hopefully be like a good excuse to have a conversation with that person that you see consistently. Maybe.
So until that point, what for our listeners out there that want to be involved, want to help, want to give, what are maybe 2 or 3 easy steps that they could take to be involved with GiveSafe?
Yeah. I mean, the first step is just to kind of be a minute man, a someone who's ready to help when they get the opportunity. Download the app, equip it to your phone, set it up. There's not a lot in the app, but once you set it up, you can kind of just forget about it. It'll be there when you need it, when you pass by someone. And we ask that if you get the notification, to say hi, to give, to think of opportunities where you can help that person, to approach that person in relationship. So that's obviously the first, and then the second, we send out critical project updates through just an update that I send out every once in a while over email. So for people that want to help in terms of getting a beacon, giving it to someone that they know or want to know, if they just sign up on our website or probably like our Facebook page or whatever, when we're ready to roll that program out, if they are subscribed, then they'll know about it.
Be notified. It's great.
Cool.
Real quick, we'll have your Facebook page and your website in our show notes, but is your username GiveSafe on Facebook or?
Yeah, at GiveSafe, and the website is withgivesafe.org.
Withgivesafe.org. Okay. Good to know. So talk to me about what's at stake if our listeners don't download the app. What's at stake if they don't respond to these people and they just kind of go on about their life?
That's a great question. That's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. Yeah, I think one thing we've realized, I mentioned that assumption earlier about beacon holders having those touch points with counselors, is that only happens if they're getting significant use out of the beacon. And so we as a community are responsible, I think, for encouraging these individuals to access those relationships with counselors. And so if we can't equip a critical mass of Seattle's city-goers with the app, then the beacon is not going to be of that much use to an individual who's on the street. And thus, it's less likely that they will go in to have that conversation on a monthly basis. And, our theory of change is that those conversations is what's going to change lives. So I think that if this is not truly embraced, and there's a chance that it's not by the city-goers, by the givers in this community, then our hope to channel these individuals into relationships may fail.
Yeah.
Seems like this would be teed up perfectly for the city to be involved and support on some level too.
Yeah.
Mayor Murray, if you're listening.
Yeah, hopefully he is. I think so too. I think one of our initial marketing channels in terms of awareness building was that the city invests a lot of cash into solutions for the homeless, and they also, I think, are interested in how their citizens are responding to homelessness. And what we hope to have created is a tool for citizens to effectively respond, right, when they see someone in need. So I think on paper, the city is certainly incentivized to issue a PSA to its commuters, saying this is a good response, versus giving cash or versus ignoring the person. This is a way that you can really make a difference. And I think Jeff mentions that currently we're funding a drug industry by contributing in the only way we know how right now, of giving cash, and it's kind of a dour outlook, but I kind of trust his judgment because he's been in that space for longer than I have. So I think it is of the city's interest. Now, it is also a little murky because I guess a lot of people don't trust the city. So for us to have an official partnership with them, which I've talked about with certain individuals in the city of Seattle, we may not necessarily want to align with them for that reason, for our beacon holders. So I think that's something that still needs to be worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so every episode we give our guests an opportunity to actually talk specifically about the city. You being a transplant, you've been here for several years now.
Year and a half.
Yeah, but you've made it your home. You've built a large network of friends, me being one of them, and I'm appreciative of that. But what are some of your biggest hopes for the city, and what are some of your biggest concerns?
I lived in Capitol Hill for about a year, then moved up to the U District. I spent a couple months in the basement of a startup church, Jason and Caleb. So it's been cool getting to be a part of a couple different neighborhoods. Hopes for the city, and I think we have a shot to do something that no city's ever done before in terms of how we treat our homeless. I think there have been some, if you look at the nation, there have been some really successful initiatives, some really, really unsuccessful initiatives. But I don't think any initiative has quite democratized the solution, solution in quotes, but a response, I should say, to homelessness as what we're doing with GiveSafe. So my hope for the city would be that its citygoers would adopt and cherish and learn from the homeless community in a way that has never been done in other U.S. cities. And I think that we can see, I believe we can see a lot of changed lives, and not just on the beacon holder side, but on the citygoer side. If just basic equation, like if you look at what's happening today, let's optimistically say that out of 100 people, 10 of them will respond in some sort of compassion when they see someone in need on the street, and 80 of them, while they may want to help, the barriers prevent them from really doing anything but ignoring the individual, or 90 of them, I should say. So if what we're doing can unlock, let's say, 10 more people or 20 more people to 20 more percent of the non-responses to learning from, and that two-way street of talking or investing into an individual, I think that our citygoers' lives are going to be better off. I think our beacon holders' lives are going to be better off. I think the local businesses that we're partnering with, they're going to be better off, just in terms of new revenue, as well as the statements that they're making to the community. Hey, we're a business that is taking part in the solution. I think that the city itself will save money. Moving people off the street I think it costs like between $20,000 to $40,000 per year per person just to leave them on the streets. I don't know if Jeff spoke to that at all, but
I might have mentioned something like that.
like shelter use, emergency rooms, ambulances, jail time.
Police officers, all that.
Yeah, social services. So that costs us money, right?
Yeah.
So when we're able to see people choose to leave the streets and access some of the programs that are available, that saves tax dollars. So there's a lot of, I think, wins. I hate to keep plugging GiveSafe, but I think that it does. If it's embraced by the community, I think it could really help in economic ways and lives changed. Concerns. I don't know if I'll ever be able to buy property here. I don't know about that or where it would be.
Affordability.
Yeah, to raise a family, I guess, if I was to stick around. Yeah. I think there are relational barriers too that extend beyond GiveSafe, just in terms of what I've experienced, I guess.
The Seattle freeze or the...
I don't know if it's a freeze. I don't know what it is. I think it seems that we seem to, maybe this is just my experience, but we seem to let little things get in the way of relationship, maybe easier than other cities I've been in. So, you know, if you live in Ballard and I live in Capitol Hill, that could be like...
Parking means I will never visit you, right?
Yeah, you never see him again. That could be as far as like living in Idaho for as far as we're concerned. It's like those little things that make getting together or I think maybe from what I've observed, we let the little things get in the way more than, you know, maybe some friends in the Midwest or I don't know. So I guess that would be a concern.
That's a good observation. I mean, I feel like I've experienced that personally. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a friend moved to West Seattle. See ya in a year.
Yeah,
exactly.
We're just more prone to let things get in the way.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Let that stop us.
Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us. For our listeners out there, if you're looking for a way to get involved or contribute towards someone that you see on the streets, GiveSafe, download the app.
Just iOS and Android.
Okay.
Free, called GiveSafe. I have it on my smartphone. I've been pleasantly surprised when I receive any of the.
Have you gotten a notification?
Yeah, it's been cool. It's been really neat. So
I'm glad to hear it.
Definitely recommend it for sure.
How did that go?
It was good, man. It was, I was like, what is this notification? And then I realized it was GiveSafe, which is exciting. So so definitely download the app. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for Facebook Living with us.
There you go. First Facebook Live.
Yeah, if you want to go to our Facebook page and watch this interview
before it airs on iTunes.
Before it airs, please go check that out.
Real quick, summarize again where people can follow you online, whatever your favorite social channels are.
Sure. Yeah, just @ GiveSafe for Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Okay.
And we haven't talked about this and announced it yet, but we will be changing our name soon.
Oh.
Breaking news here on the podcast.
Yeah. I think we're I guess I could say it. I don't think we are. We're moving towards changing our name to Samaritan, actually. So the people may have to adjust in terms of what they're following. But yeah, with givesafe.org right now and on our Facebook page and all that.
Got it. Awesome. Jonathan, thank you so much, man.
Sure.
It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah.
And best of luck on the upcoming year.
Yeah, thank you. You guys as well.
Thanks, man.
All right. Facebook Live. Thanks, guys.